My passport officer asked, "How are you traveling when you're supposed to be in prison?" I froze at LAX customs desk, boarding pass for London crumpling in my sweaty palm. Officer Krill typed urgently into her computer before turning the screen toward me. There it was in official font. Jax Riley, convicted of armed robbery and assault, sentenced to 15 years at California State Prison. Current status, incarcerated. That's not me, I said, voice shaking. I've never been to prison. I work at a marketing firm in Portland. She gestured toward a small office behind customs booths. According to this, you were convicted 3 years ago for robbing a convenience store in Fresno and beating the clerk with a tire iron. I stared in horror. 3 years ago, I was working my first job out of college, living in a tiny Portland apartment. I'd never been to Fresno in my life. There has to be some mistake, I said, pulling out photos of my normal life. Here's me at work last week. Here's my apartment lease. Officer Krill studied the evidence but remained suspicious. Identity theft happens, but usually people steal identities to avoid prison, not to go to prison. After checking further, she looked puzzled. The booking photo looks exactly like you, but the fingerprints don't match your passport application. When she showed me the booking photo, I nearly fell over. The person in orange jumpsuit looked identical to me. Same brown hair, green eyes, same scar above my left eyebrow from childhood. But it wasn't me. I remembered exactly where I was when this person was apparently getting arrested. Agent Foster from a government department arrived with thick files. Over the past 5 years, someone has been systematically creating false criminal records for real people. The victims are usually young adults with clean records and stable employment. He showed me a spreadsheet with dozens of names, including mine. But why? I asked. We believe it's connected to a private prison corporation that gets paid based on occupancy rates. Creating fake convictions helps them justify federal contracts. Someone had basically sold me into slavery to fill prison quotas, except I wasn't actually imprisoned because I'd never been arrested. The scheme worked because most people never check their criminal background. I only discovered it trying to travel internationally. Foster showed me court transcripts from my fake trial where someone had hired a public defender to enter guilty pleas on my behalf. Corrupt clerks, fake attorneys, and falsified paperwork created an entire shadow justice system. I hired attorney Linda Vex, who worked for free because my case could expose the entire fraud scheme. We spent weeks gathering evidence of my real whereabouts during the supposed prison time. Bank records, work timesheets, apartment leases, even social media photos with timestamps proving I was in Portland when Jax Riley was supposedly arrested in Fresno. Meanwhile, I couldn't travel internationally, couldn't pass background checks for apartments, and lived in constant fear someone would assume I was dangerous. The worst part was telling family what happened. My parents initially thought I was lying, especially when they Googled my name and found news articles about armed robbery. Linda discovered 47 other victims of the same scheme and organized a class action lawsuit against Cornerstone Corrections and Fresno County court system. Our first group meeting revealed a teacher who lost her job, a nurse who couldn't renew her license, a father denied custody during divorce proceedings. Media attention started after Linda's press conference. I found myself on CNN explaining how someone stole my identity to create fake convictions. The reporter kept asking if I was sure I hadn't committed the crime and forgotten, which made me want to scream. You don't forget robbing a store and beating someone with a tire iron. The FBI raid on Cornerstone Corrections happened 6 months after my airport encounter. I watched federal agents carrying evidence boxes while CEO Dale Finch was arrested, along with 12 executives. The fake court clerk who processed my conviction was also arrested, but the damage to my reputation remained. Getting the conviction expunged required proving my innocence of crimes I never committed. Linda presented bank records, work attendance, security footage, even testimony from friends proving I was in Portland during the Fresno robbery. The judge ruled in our favor but warned it could take months for information to update across all systems. Even after official expungement, traces lingered in internet searches and private databases. I lost job opportunities, my credit score was destroyed by fake court fines, and landlords rejected rental applications. Completely cleaning up identity theft damage took years despite court orders. The class action settlement took 2 years, with Cornerstone paying $50 million to victims, about $300,000 each after legal fees. The money helped but couldn't repair psychological damage or years of stress. Dale Finch got sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, the same sentence I was supposedly serving for armed robbery. Rebuilding my life required moving to Denver and starting over with new job, apartment, and social circle. I met Sarah at a coffee shop and after 2 months told her the whole story. She Googled my name immediately and said, "Holy shit, this actually happened to you." Sarah became my strongest supporter throughout the remaining legal cleanup. 3 years after LAX, I finally took that London trip for our honeymoon. When I handed my passport to customs, my heart raced, but the officer just stamped it and waved us through. Standing in Heathrow, I realized I'd been holding my breath for 3 years, waiting for the system to fail me again. I started speaking at conferences about identity theft and criminal justice reform. My story became a case study in how private prisons create perverse incentives for mass incarceration. I testified before Congress about the need for better oversight of private prison contracts, turning my nightmare into advocacy for systemic change. 5 years later, Sarah and I have 2 kids and a house in Denver suburbs. The settlement money helped us buy our home, but more importantly, the experience taught me that identity is something you must actively protect and defend. The systems we trust can fail catastrophically, but they can't change who you really are inside.